This is not just a story about love, it's about what happens when loyalty is forgotten. My name is Emma. And for 7 years, I believed in someone more than I believed in myself. I gave him everything. My time. My dreams. My future. I watched him rise while I stayed in the shadows, telling myself it was temporary. That once he made it, we'd celebrate together. But success has a way of changing people. And when he finally reached the top, he looked down at me like I was something he'd outgrown. This is the story of how I loved a man who became a stranger. And how I made sure he'd never forget the woman he tried to erase. We met in college. I was studying business management. He was in his second year of law school, broke, ambitious, and absolutely convinced he was going to change the world. His name was Daniel. I remember the first time I saw him in the library. 3 a.m. Surrounded by case files. He had this energy about him. Like he was made of pure determination. We started talking. Then coffee. Then late nights became our thing. He told me about his dreams. How he wanted to build his own firm. How he wanted to represent people who couldn't afford justice. I loved that version of him. 6 months later, we moved in together. A tiny apartment near campus. 1 bedroom. A kitchen the size of a closet. But it was ours. That's when I saw what ambition really costs. Daniel studied 18 hours a day. He barely slept. Barely ate. His student loans were piling up, and he was drowning. So I made a choice. I dropped out of my final year. Took 2 jobs. One as a waitress during the day. Another doing data entry at night. I told myself it was temporary. Just until he graduated. Just until he passed the bar. Just until he got his first clients. Just until. My parents didn't understand. They said I was throwing my life away for someone who might not stay. But I didn't listen. Because when you love someone, you don't count the cost. You just pay it. Daniel graduated top of his class. I was there in the audience, exhausted, wearing a dress I'd bought at a thrift store, crying tears of pride. He got his first job at a small firm. The pay was terrible. But he was happy. And I kept working. Kept sacrificing. Kept believing. 2 years passed. He worked his way up. Started getting bigger cases. Better clients. His name was being mentioned in legal circles. And me? I was still waitressing. Still doing data entry. Still postponing my own education. But I didn't mind. Because every time he won a case, every time someone praised his work, I felt like we were winning together. I was proud of him. I thought he was proud of us. It started with small things. The way he'd check his phone during dinner. The way he'd take calls in the other room. The way he stopped asking about my day. Then came the parties. Corporate events. Networking dinners. Gallery openings. At first, he'd bring me along. Introduce me as Emma, my girlfriend. But I could feel the shift. The way other lawyers looked at me. The way their wives smiled politely, then turned away. I wasn't like them. I didn't have a degree. I didn't know which fork to use at fancy restaurants. I was the girl who worked 2 jobs. The girl who still wore discount store clothes while they wore designer everything. One night, after a firm party, Daniel came home quiet. I asked him what was wrong. He said, nothing. But I knew. A month later, he stopped inviting me. It's just work stuff, he'd say. You'd be bored. I believed him. I shouldn't have. Then came the night everything shattered. It was our 7-year anniversary. I'd planned a small dinner at home. Nothing fancy. Just us. He texted me 2 hours before, can't make it. Client emergency. I waited anyway. Made his favorite meal. Set the table with candles. He came home at midnight. Drunk. Smelling like expensive perfume that wasn't mine. I asked where he'd been. He sighed. Like I was inconveniencing him. Emma, we need to talk. 4 words. That's all it took for my world to collapse. He sat down. Couldn't even look at me. I've been thinking, he said. About us. About where we're going. My heart was pounding. I'm in a different place now, he continued. My career is taking off. I'm meeting new people. Important people. I stared at him. And you? He paused. You're still working at that diner. The words hit me like a slap. I've outgrown this, he said, gesturing around our apartment. At me. Are you serious? I whispered. He stood up. Started pacing. I need someone who fits into my world, Emma. Someone who can stand beside me at these events without making me explain. Explain what? My voice was shaking. Why I'm with a waitress. Silence. I couldn't breathe. 7 years. 2 jobs. My entire future. My education. My dreams. All of it, for this. There's someone else, isn't there? I asked. He didn't deny it. Her name was Victoria. A corporate lawyer from his firm. Ivy League education. Old money family. Everything I wasn't. She understands my world, he said. I laughed. Actually laughed. A bitter, broken sound. I built your world, Daniel. While you were studying, I was working. While you were sleeping, I was paying our rent. I gave you everything. He looked at me with something close to pity. And I'm grateful, Emma. I really am. But gratitude isn't love. He packed a bag that night. Left our apartment. Left 7 years like they were nothing. 2 months later, I saw the engagement announcement in the society pages. Daniel Morrison and Victoria Ashford. Power couple. Legal dynasty in the making. There was a photo. Them at some charity gala. Him in a tuxedo. Her in diamonds. They looked perfect together. And in the article, when they asked about his journey to success, he talked about hard work, determination, and the support of his colleagues. He didn't mention me. Not once. 7 years of my life, erased. The first month after he left, I barely functioned. I'd wake up and forget he was gone. Reach for him. Feel the empty space. Then remember. I stopped eating. Stopped sleeping properly. Moved through my shifts at the diner like a ghost. My coworkers noticed. Asked if I was okay. I'd smile and say, just tired. But inside, I was dying. Not from heartbreak. That would have been easier. I was dying from the injustice of it all. I'd given him 7 years. He gave me 2 months' notice, like I was an employee he'd outgrown. At night, alone in our apartment that was now just mine, I'd replay every moment. Every sacrifice I'd made. Every time I'd chosen his dreams over mine. Every time I told myself it would be worth it. And for what? To be replaced by someone who never had to prove her worth. Someone who was born into the world he wanted to join. The anger came slowly. First, it was sadness. Then confusion. Then, fury. A quiet, cold fury that lived in my chest like ice. I thought about calling him. Screaming at him. Demanding he acknowledge what I'd done for him. But I didn't. Because I realized something. He didn't care. To him, I was a chapter in his success story that didn't fit the narrative he was building. The struggling years. The poverty. The girl who worked 2 jobs to keep him afloat. That didn't sound good at country club dinners. So he rewrote the story. And I became no one. I'd scroll through social media and see him. Always smiling. Always successful. Always with her. They got married 6 months after he left me. A wedding featured in the local magazine. Rising star lawyer weds corporate elite. I didn't go. Obviously. But I read every word of that article. And one line stuck with me. Morrison credits his success to relentless self-discipline and the unwavering support of his wife, Victoria, who has been his partner through it all. Through it all. She'd known him less than a year. I'd known him for 7. That's when something inside me shifted. I stopped crying. Stopped feeling sorry for myself. And started thinking. Daniel had built his entire image on a lie. The self-made man. The one who pulled himself up through hard work alone. But I knew the truth. I knew every loan I'd covered. Every rent payment I'd made. Every meal I'd skipped so he could eat. I had proof. Receipts. Bank statements. Text messages. 7 years of evidence that his success story was fiction. But revenge isn't about exposing someone once and watching them shrug it off. Real revenge is about patience. About waiting for the perfect moment. About building something so carefully that when it falls apart, they can't put it back together. So I made a decision. I wouldn't cry anymore. I wouldn't beg for acknowledgement. I would disappear. And I would become the one thing Daniel feared most. Someone he couldn't ignore. I started small. First, I quit both my jobs. Packed up the apartment. Moved to a different city. I needed space. Distance. Clarity. I enrolled in online business courses. Used the small savings I had left. For the first time in 7 years, I was investing in myself. It felt strange. Selfish even. But I kept going. I studied business strategy. Finance. Marketing. Corporate law. That last one was intentional. If I was going to understand Daniel's world, I needed to speak his language. I worked during the day. Studied at night. Rebuilt myself piece by piece. A year passed. I finished my degree online. Top of my class. Then I got a job at a consulting firm. Entry level. Nothing glamorous. But I was good at it. Very good. I understood business in a way my colleagues didn't. Because I'd lived at the bottom. I knew what it took to survive. To sacrifice. To build something from nothing. That gave me an edge. 2 years after Daniel left, I got promoted. 3 years after, I was leading projects for major clients. 4 years after, I started my own consulting firm. Small at first. Just me and 2 employees. But we specialized in something specific: corporate restructuring and reputation management. We helped companies in crisis. Guided them through scandals. Rebuilt their public image. And we were good at it. Very good. My firm grew. 5 employees. Then 10. Then 20. I made connections. Built relationships with executives, board members, investors. I learned how power really works. It's not about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the one everyone needs. And I made sure people needed me. By year 5, my firm was handling some of the biggest corporate clients in the region. I'd built something real. Something I was proud of. But I never forgot why I started. I kept track of Daniel. Not obsessively. Just aware. His firm had grown too. He'd made partner. Was being considered for a judgeship. His wife Victoria had her own successful practice. They were the golden couple of the legal world. Perfect life. Perfect image. Built on a perfect lie. And then, opportunity knocked. One of my consulting clients was a major investment firm. They were planning a merger with another company. And that company's legal representation? Daniel's firm. I couldn't have planned it better if I tried. The universe was handing me the keys to his world. And I was going to unlock every door. 6 months into the merger process, I made my first move. During a routine audit, I discovered the billing irregularities. Not directly. I had a junior analyst find them. Flag them as potential concerns. Standard due diligence. Nothing personal. The investment firm took it seriously. Ordered a full review of Daniel's firm's finances. Daniel tried to dismiss it. Called it a misunderstanding. Accounting errors. But once you open that door, it's hard to close. The review expanded. More irregularities surfaced. Client complaints that had been quietly settled. Associates who'd left the firm under suspicious circumstances. Nothing catastrophic. Not yet. But enough to create doubt. And in the legal world, doubt is poison. I watched as Daniel started to panic. Saw him take longer lunches. Tense phone calls. Urgent meetings. He still didn't know I was behind any of it. To him, I was just the consultant overseeing the merger. Professional. Helpful. Neutral. I even offered to help manage the crisis. These things happen, I told him in a private meeting. We can rebuild trust. It's what we do. He looked at me with relief. Thank you, Ms. Hartley. I appreciate your understanding. I smiled. Of course. We all make mistakes. The second move came 2 months later. A former client of Daniel's firm reached out to me. They'd been unhappy with their representation but hadn't known what to do. I listened. Took notes. Offered advice. Then I connected them with a journalist friend. Someone who specialized in legal ethics stories. The article came out 3 weeks later. Morrison and Partners, success built on questionable foundations. It was fair. Balanced. Well-researched. And devastating. Because it wasn't just about the billing issues. It detailed a pattern. Associates being overworked and undercredited. Clients being billed for work never done. Junior lawyers leaving with complaints of a toxic culture. And at the center of it all, Daniel Morrison. The self-made man who'd apparently made himself on the backs of others. The irony wasn't lost on me. The firm went into damage control. Press releases. Apologies. Promises to investigate. But the damage was done. Clients started pulling contracts. Partners started questioning leadership. Daniel's bid for the judgeship was quietly withdrawn. And Victoria? She filed for separation. Apparently, being married to a scandal wasn't part of her brand. I watched it all unfold from a distance. Never gloating. Never public. Just watching. The final move was the simplest. I sent an anonymous package to the State Bar Association. Inside, 7 years of receipts. Bank statements. Rent payments. Loan documents. All showing that during Daniel's law school years and early career, someone else had been paying his way. Along with a simple note. The self-made man who forgot to mention the woman who made him. I didn't sign it. Didn't need to. The bar didn't disbar him. That wasn't the point. But they did note it in their file. And when reporters asked about his past, about his rise to success, the story got complicated. He was forced to acknowledge it. In interviews, in public statements, in the narrative he'd worked so hard to build. He had to admit that he hadn't done it alone. That someone had supported him. He never said my name. But he didn't need to. Because the people who mattered knew. The legal community is small. Word spreads. And the image of the brilliant, self-made attorney shattered. Replaced by something more human. More flawed. More true. It's been 2 years since Daniel's firm collapsed. He works at a smaller practice now. Still practicing law. Still competent. But the golden boy image? Gone. The judgeship? Never happened. The perfect marriage? Ended. The reputation he built? Tarnished forever. I didn't destroy him completely. That was never the goal. I just made sure the truth came out. That the story he'd erased got told. As for me? My firm is thriving. We're opening a second office next month. I've built something I'm proud of. Something that's actually mine. I never went public with my connection to Daniel. Never did interviews. Never told my side directly. Because I didn't need to. The work spoke for itself. A few months ago, I saw him at a professional conference. We were in the same room. Across a crowded hall. Our eyes met. And this time, he recognized me. I saw it. The moment of realization. The understanding. He knew. He started walking toward me. Mouth open. Like he was going to say something. I turned and walked away. Because I had nothing left to say to him. I'd already said everything that mattered. Sometimes people ask me if it was worth it. 5 years of planning. Of building. Of waiting. And I tell them the truth. It wasn't about him. It was about me. About proving that the girl he threw away could become someone he couldn't ignore. About showing that success built on lies always crumbles. About making sure that the people who sacrifice everything don't get erased from the stories they helped write. Daniel thought he could rewrite history. Erase me like I never existed. But he forgot something important. The person who knows your truth is the most dangerous person in your life. And I knew everything. I want you to remember something. When someone treats you like you're disposable. When they take everything you gave and pretend it never happened. Don't beg them to remember. Don't scream for acknowledgement. Build something so undeniable that they can't forget. Become so powerful that they regret ever letting you go. Not for revenge. For yourself. Because the best payback isn't destroying them. It's becoming everything they said you'd never be. Some people think success made them powerful. They forget who paid the price. END. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories about justice, karma, and the truth about success. And drop a comment, what would you have done in Emma's position? Thanks for watching. I'm Melissa. And remember, loyalty is never forgotten, even when they try to erase it.